Good evening and a very warm welcome to Camnet TV Main News. Let's look at the top stories. Former President Edgar Chagwa Lungu mocks President Hakainde Hichilema over high commodity prices. Flash floods traumatized Lusaka residents. Zambia ends load shedding. In our international headlines, small businesses count on massive losses from South Africa's power cuts. And in sports, Zambia under-20 national team is in Egypt ahead of the Africa Cup of Nations. We have the details shortly.
What do you know about Zambia? Musivapo chani pari Zambia. Maishivapo shi pachalo chenu. Let your knowledge about Zambia earn you up to 5,000 kwacha cash daily on the Smart Quiz. For you to be part of this empowering show, all you have to do is subscribe daily with 10 kwacha only. Dial star 265 star 13990 star 10 hash on any network. Questions will be posted every morning on the Vim TV and General Consult Facebook page and Camnet TV Facebook page. Follow our Facebook pages so that you do not miss out. On the 14th of February 2023 at 18:30 on Camnet TV, channel 274 on DSTV, 98 on GoTV, and channel 106 on Topstar. Be entertained, educated, and empowered on the Smart Quiz. Be smart.
Thank you so much for joining us to present the main news. My name is Louisiana Lupumbwe, and now the news in detail. Several communities of Lusaka have been affected by flash floods following a heavy downpour. And residents of Lusaka's Kuku compound in Chawama Ward 1 have been left hopeless as their homes and household properties are submerged in water. Speaking to Camnet TV News, the residents have explained that the rains have left them with nowhere to spend the night. They have attributed the heavy flooding to the poor maintenance of drainages. We have more in the following report.
Seasonal floods have always presented huge problems for people in many communities in Zambia, with Kuku compounds in Chawama Ward 1 being amongst the worst affected communities. However, the 2022-2023 rainy season has been devastating for many, especially that it coincides with economic instability, thus leaving many people in despair. Following the heavy downpour that occurred on the night of February 8th until Thursday afternoon, houses have been submerged in water, leaving their owners traumatized. A check by Camnet TV found some residents manually flushing out water from their homes.
Manzi kwa kukona ni somu nyumba na mniangeni. Mbale, bonzo ni nyumba banani. Boma ilanganepo. Madene jisi yange na manzi yanafuasa kuna. Soka ya mwana.
Kifueko ni madreneji, makirine madreneji, wafuasuruli. Kiri inabana na kumasikuru walova zionaende. Drama zionongeka. Na kumanchiko talova. Zashi ya kwanji.
Some residents have lamented that all their household goods have been submerged in water, leaving them with no hope for the future. They have since appealed to the relevant authorities, such as the Disaster Management and Mitigation Unit (DMMU), to step in and help with the situation.
Manzi yalibepoenda, madrainages yaliblocked. As a result, manzi yafikira mu manyumba. So,
and in Chawama constituency, John Howard, Ward 3, the plea is the same as residents accuse the civic leaders of abandoning their responsibilities.
Manzi ya chiramu yatingenyera mu manyumba. Tulipena chance ya utumuchoke mwende mugure ndiyo. Mabwa mwala undako mwaona manzi.
Kwa muno mkombo 1973 manzi sashita soya manzi anakuyenda mchidamu. Saya manzi mani atoka kwa bomola manzi asayenda. So wene wakamba kutati asaka tukonzela madrainage mu April mwa bantu. Tizapulumuka nayo manzi aya.
Beatrice Chabaya, Camnet News, Lusaka.
Lusaka residents living in unplanned settlements, commonly known as shanty compounds, have challenged government to create favorable economic conditions that will allow them to afford decent accommodation. Speaking to Camnet News, one of the residents, Rostina Nankamba, says most people in Zambia live below the poverty line and cannot afford decent accommodation, hence often becoming displaced after a heavy downpour due to their houses collapsing. A check by Camnet TV News around some communities in Lusaka found that most houses have collapsed since the onset of the 2022-2023 rainy season, as most of them are made from substandard building materials such as mud. We have details in this report.
According to 2022 data from Habitat for Humanity Zambia, a non-governmental organization that advocates for decent accommodation for citizens, the country currently has a housing deficit of 2.8 million units and is projected to double by 2025. The inability by most citizens to afford decent accommodation is due to high poverty levels that stand at over 50%, and this has resulted in 70% of urban dwellers living in unplanned settlements, commonly known as shanty compounds. These communities are plagued with various challenges, among which is inadequate access to safe and clean drinking water, as well as sanitation services, as most of them depend on shallow wells for water and pit latrines for toilets. Those who choose to build for themselves often do so using substandard material while making use of large stones to support their roof structures. Natural disasters like floods caused by heavy rain make it easy for such houses to collapse. The case of some houses in Lusaka's Kanyama and Kalikiliki compounds that have been falling since the onset of the 2022-2023 rain season. Residents of these communities say it is the duty of government to create a favorable economic environment to ensure that decent accommodation is made more affordable.
Nakubaziba bantu sibabaziba because ngati basebenza sembe bantu batamba kuti mwakalikiriki manyumba yapwanyika muli ma problem manyumba yasira kupwanyika mwakalikiriki kuti because bantu sibakwanisa ni bakulu amene sibasebenza manyumba yaonongeka mwakalikiriki iki mwamene muonera nyumba iyi konse kwamene tachokera ku manyumba niyo pwanyika ngati kuliwo tandizako kuti banga bamangireko manyumba yokosa chigatandizeko ndaba muno bantu ni bakulu maningi muli nkalamba zikulu zakuti sibanga kwanise balibe bana balibe bo batandizira manje ngati nyumba yapwanyika monga iso azaenda kuti kulibe
nyumba inayambirira kupwanyika ni side one room yawo yapwanyika usiku kweze kuma 20 hours kuseni kuma 10 niye pamene inapwanyika iyi nishimuli bantu mukati so tangona chabedo yapona chabe so lomba msikana nabwera lomba kuzoiphwanya yonse mwamene tinayionera.
This scenario also highlights the need for government to ensure that the housing crisis is quickly looked into by seeing to it that citizens live in habitable houses.
Tufuna ba MP please batutandizeko. That's why muno mwakalikiriki bana bangena ma problems yokuba manje gochitika kubema faka nichani pogona balibe bango zifuntisa bena bake ine chamene ninga kambe chamene icho chinyibaba maningi ba WDC bafunika bapitamo baona bantu bawo momene bankalira bankala bwanji.
By 2030, Zambia aspires to attain the status of a prosperous middle-income country, but this will clearly not be attained without easy access to decent accommodation for citizens. Zipora Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
And in other news, John Chiti, the Commissioner for Zambia Police Service and Technical Advisor on Disability, is concerned that persons with albinism continue to be targeted for ritual killings in the country. Mr. Chiti notes that the problem does not only affect Zambia but the entire region. He was reacting to the recent incident that happened in Mongu Western Province, where police blocked a ploy and arrested 12 suspects who attempted to sell a 17-year-old albino male student of Sefula Combined School for the Blind. More in this report.
The last census conducted showed that Zambia had about 25,324 people with albinism who sadly continue to live in fear despite the efforts by the government to promote their welfare, including prohibiting racial discrimination and brutal attacks. The cases of albino killings in Zambia seem to be on the rise again, with neighboring Tanzania believed to be the main business hotspots, where, according to the Red Cross, witch doctors pay up to $75,000 for a complete set of albino parts. The latest incident in Zambia happened in Mongu, Western Province, where police blocked a ploy and arrested 12 suspects who attempted to sell a 17-year-old albino male student of Sefula Combined School for the blind. And John Chiti, Commissioner for Zambia Police Service and Technical Advisor on Disability, is concerned that the problem has persisted not only in Zambia but across the region.
Now, people with albinism are targeted simply for their body parts because of misconceptions that their body parts or body parts of people with albinism can be used for rituals and to bring wealth and things like that. They are targeted and they are attacked. And in this case, we are seeing that children are not spared. Pupils, young boys and girls, including adults, are being targeted and attacked and killed for their body parts. It is also sad to note that such cases are involving close people to people with albinism. Well, the main question is, are the attacks happening? Well, the attacks are happening, and I want to caution families to people with albinism, including people with albinism themselves, that when it is quiet, when we don't record any attack, it doesn't mean that the attacks have stopped. The attacks are there.
Human rights advocate Christopher Shalwabala calls for punitive measures against the perpetrators of atrocities against the albinism community.
So investigations that have been instituted by the Zambia Police Service is a welcome move, though I would have loved a situation where before this incident occurs, we have a mechanism where these cases are supposed to be detected. In Zambia, we've got a wing so-called detectives for plain police officers here in this country. I tend to wonder why we always rush to arresting perpetrators after the life of an innocent albino boy has been lost. To me, I think as an advocate of human rights, it's not enough. I would have loved, first of all, to have measures being put in place so that this precious life, innocent life, could have been preserved.
It is a known fact that persons with albinism fail to enjoy the various rights enshrined in the Constitution. Hence, it is government to change the prevailing circumstances. Beatrice Chabaya, Camnet News, Lusaka.
ZESCO Managing Director Victor Mapani says the power utility company has officially ended load shedding, as the recent floods that the country has had over the past few weeks have resulted in electricity generation at the Kafio Gorge power station almost being normalized. Addressing the media Thursday, Mr. Mapani adds that 2 machines at Victoria Falls Power Station have been repaired, meaning that the power station is operating at 100% of its installed capacity. The ZESCO Managing Director has therefore advised citizens who may experience any power outages to report the fault to the power utility company. More in this report.
Since the beginning of load shedding on 4th January 2023, owners of electricity-dependent enterprises such as saloons, barber shops, as well as welders have been taking to various media platforms expressing how this was negatively affecting their source of income. Thursday, 9th February 2023, Zambia's power utility ZESCO has announced an end to load shedding owing to various factors, among which is the heavy rains that have almost normalized power generation at Kafio Gorge Power Station, stating that its capacity had reduced to 800 megawatts against its installed capacity of 990 megawatts, but is now operating at 900 megawatts. Addressing the media Thursday, ZESCO Managing Director Victor Mapani says the power utility is also concluding an agreement with Mozambique for an additional 120 megawatts, stating that this will be used to cushion electricity deficits during times of machine maintenance.
We are now sure that actually the load shedding is gone. At least we've gone over the cliff. We have noted that the waters are picking up. in the Caribbean, and also some other mitigations that we had to put in place. What did we do to get the load shedding off our back? We had 2 machines at Victoria Falls, which had been down for a period of close to 3 years. 2 of those machines were brought in consecutively end of last year and early this year. So that gave us a boost of 20 megawatts from Victoria Falls, meaning now Victoria Falls Power Station, as we sit here today, is operating at 100% of its installed capacity. And then we came through Kafue Basin, where we do have 3 power stations. We have the Iteji Power Company, whose installed capacity is 120. It was operating at a mere 80 megawatts during the difficult time of load shedding. That now has ramped up and is sitting close to 98 or almost 100 megawatts, which means we are almost there. That has been a push. That's an additional 20 megawatts from Iteji.
Meanwhile, Mr. Mapani says the power utility has also entered into an agreement on how it will clear outstanding debt owed to independent power producers in the country, while ensuring that this debt does not rise. The ZESCO MD has also reviewed that 3 solar power plants are expected to start operating in Zambia within a period of 1 year and 6 months, as companies have been contracted.
Specifically 150 megawatts, 50 megawatts each. 3 independent power producers have signed up with ZESCO, and I think just some few administrative issues are being ironed out, and we believe that works will start soon. The big one for ZESCO has been the opening up of this with even bigger partners. You've heard of Mazda of Abu Dhabi. Mazda is a developer, and they have developed solar power plants all over the world to the tune of 23,000 megawatts in different countries.
Mr. Mapani adds that the power utility has scrapped off personal to order vehicles for employees, as well as free electricity units, to ensure that this money is diverted to other areas. He also states that ZESCO has been running filling stations in some parts of the country as well as clinics, but that these will be scrapped off, adding that any future business ventures will be in the area of the company's expertise. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
Former First Lady Esther Lungu has lamented that she is fatigued by the manner in which her children are being treated by the investigative wings in the country. Speaking at the Drug Enforcement Commission DEC premises Thursday morning, where her son Daliso Lungu appeared before a joint investigation team Thursday, Mrs. Lungu says her son is still young and does not deserve to be going through such torture. And former President Edgar Lungu earlier mocked President Hakainde Hichilema's administration for allegedly failing to address the high cost of living as claimed while they were in opposition. And Police Deputy Spokesperson Danny Mwale says police are investigating Salyot Traders Limited in connection with being in possession of properties reasonably suspected to be proceeds of crime, the properties which Daliso Lungu demanded to be released. More in this report.
After 2 years of being silent on the matter in which her son Daliso Lungu has had his property seized, pending investigations and appearing before investigative bodies, former First Lady Esther Lungu has spoken out and says she now feels fatigued in the manner in which her children are being treated by investigative wings in the country. Mrs. Lungu, who was in the company of her husband, former President Edgar Lungu, and other Patriotic Front members when they accompanied her son Daliso Lungu, who was appearing before the investigative wings in Lusaka Thursday, says her son is too young to be going through such traumatizing moments.
They are too young to be harassed to this extent. Thank you.
On the other hand, former President Edgar Lungu had a moment to laugh about the high fuel and mealie meal prices currently prevailing on the Zambian market when the current administration promised they would make goods cheaper.
No, fiction. Fiction becomes the reality when you are in trouble. Yes, sir. Yeah, when you can marry the two. Yeah, because I read that letter from his Grace is the emeritus professor, Papa, emeritus saying life. Yes. What is the you are the what you got a blood shedding now? What a point the blood shedding. What he meant at it, Dairafika. Papa didn't the fuel, but Dairafika. Now, the Jew, the boys are when you, Madam it's actually a sin. The Bible is very categorical about it.
And acting Patriotic Front President Given Lubinda, who spoke on behalf of Mrs. Lungu, says the conduct by investigative wings is a violation of human rights on the part of Daliso Lungu.
I sat in the interviews and I have to say that the defense team put up a very splendid performance in asking the police to clarify why Daliso is being called by all sorts of investigative wings. Why isn't it that they are consolidating all these matters and let them be handled by one investigative wing? And also, they put a very clear case on the fact that there is a violation on Daliso's rights, that his property is being held by the police against the provisions of the law. And they have requested that they be given a clear answer within the shortest possible time.
And police deputy spokesperson Danny Mwale says the police investigations team is investigating Saliod Traders Limited in connection with being in possession of properties reasonably suspected to be proceeds of crime in Chongwe district, contrary to the laws of Zambia. Mr. Mwale further says on February 9, 2023, around 10 hours, Daliso Lungu appeared before the investigations team in Lusaka demanding the release of the seized assets, which are currently under investigation. The police have since advised that the matter is still under investigations and that Mr. Lungu will be communicated to as soon as investigations are concluded. Prudence Chota, reporting for Camnet TV News.
President Hakainde Hichilema has assured the United States of America that his administration is working at improving Zambia's business environment. President Hakainde Hichilema says his administration is also working on lowering the cost of doing business in order to attract more investment. The president says this at State House Thursday when a delegation from the United States led by U.S. Secretary of Commerce for International Trade Marisa Lago called on him. Meanwhile, Ms. Lago says the key objective of her visit to Zambia is to follow upon the discussion that President Hichilema had with U.S. Secretary of Commerce and other U.S. officials regarding the mutual desire to increase trade between the two countries. We have details in this report.
A team from the United States of America, led by Secretary of Commerce for International Trade Marisa Lago, Thursday called on Zambia's President Hakainde Hichilema to follow up on the discussions that President Hakainde Hichilema had with the U.S. Secretary of Commerce and other officials in December last year regarding the mutual desires to increase two-way trade between the U.S. and Zambia. Zambia's President Hakainde Hichilema, who was accompanied by officials from State House and the Ministry of Commerce, Trade and Industry, has however appreciated the U.S. for the support it has been rendering to the Zambian people and says his administration is working at mechanisms to ease the doing of business, adding that the much talked about development cannot be attained if the ease of doing business is not favorable.
One is to ease doing business, to make it easier to do business here. You cannot be talking of trade and investment when it's difficult to do business in our environment. Because it means segregation of what we would like to achieve. So we are conscious that we need to continuously improve the ease of doing business in our country. We need, secondly, to also continue to lower the cost of doing business in our country.
The president also says Zambia has enjoyed a mutual relation with the U.S., adding that if well-nurtured, the relationship will culminate into economic development.
We are aware that we structure, we manage these relationships well. They will lead us into the growth that people have. And as I always say that no matter how well intended we are, as a people, how much we love each other, really we cannot share poverty. We cannot redistribute now.
Meanwhile, Meanwhile, Ms. Lago has assured President Hichilema that there is great interest to invest in Zambia among the U.S. business community.
Also provides the opportunity to discuss with the Zambian government and regulatory bodies the critical importance of the business enabling environment to attracting business from American firms. And on that note, I commend the investigation into the Ministry of Finance that was announced last night by your Anti-Corruption Commission. U.S. companies will be further encouraged by this demonstration of your administration's commitment to the rule of law in Zambian government institutions.
The president then proceeded into a closed-door meeting with a representative from the U.S. and later accompanied Ms. Lago as she signed in the book of visitors at State House. Prudence Chota, reporting for Camnet TV News.
The Catholic pledged to continue providing social services to the people of Zambia. Speaking when the archbishops met President Hakainde Hichilema at State House Thursday, Zambia Conference of Catholic Bishop President Reverend Ignatius Chama says the Catholic Church will also continue to partner with the government of the day in providing the services. The bishops have since appealed to President Hakainde Hichilema to allocate time for constant engagement with the Church to discuss matters of national interest. And President Hichilema, in his response, has assured the bishops that he will come up with a timetable that will allow the Church to constantly engage him.
Issues that we will have regular meetings, structured meetings, and we hope today, as part of our conclusion to our meeting, we will agree the regularity of our meetings. Our partnership is for a common, what I call intersection, service to the people. The church services our people. This government is elected in a democratic constitutional office to service the people. To serve the people. This church provides health services properly. Wherever the Catholic health services are located, the patients are not just Catholics, they are members of the community.
Indeed, to be good that we find a way of agreeing that such and such a time we are coming together to share notes. This is what we do. Indeed, the Church will continue to provide partnership with the state to provide the services to the people. For indeed, the message of Christ is the message of liberation.
A Copperbelt-based development activist, Chanda Mulenga, says the reshuffles that were made by the Local Government Service Commission in various local authorities in 2022 have resulted in visible change as they have become more productive. In an interview, Mr. Chanda says this shows that all that local authorities needed was aggression to help them operate at optimum level. He has therefore urged the Local Government Service Commission not to relent, but to continue offering checks and balances on all local authorities across the country to enhance accountability. The Local Government Service Commission in May 2022 rolled out a human resource audit which saw various reshuffles in all 116 districts across the country.
Lately, the performance of councils in some other councils, we had noticed that there was too much reluctance in service delivery. Reasons were that staff were in the same councils for longer periods. Some have been in the same councils for over a period of 10-15 years. So they got used to the system. But with the changes that has been made by the new commissioner under the tutelage of Honorable Surgeon, we have seen improved service delivery in all the councils. The audit that has taken place has de-exposed a lot of ghost workers. They are not there now, and we have seen that things are moving the way they're supposed to move. So it is the duty of all the council secretaries, town clerks, to ensure that they up their game in service delivery in order to realize the much intended revenue to improve the livelihood of this country.
Just now, we take our first commercial break. When we get back, we have more local stories. Stay tuned.
Your skin is the biggest muscle in your body. That's why we make sure that Oracle is #1 when it comes to taking care of your precious skin. Oracle Pure Petroleum Jelly and Glycerin soothes, moisturizes and keeps your skin perfect. Oracle Pure Petroleum products for that perfect skin.
You know, I take her a bit.
Yes, my dear.
I was thinking of getting you a Bugatti on your birthday.
Really?
I'm quiet. My name is Yana.
Don't worry, my dear. That's why there is insurance.
Insurance?
You heard me.
Not just any kind of insurance, but Savenda General Insurance, a company that offers superior customer service, highly professional and dedicated staff. We are not just any insurance company, but an insurance company that actually pays our claims. We cover, among others, fire, marine, aviation, engineering, agriculture, motor vehicle, and miscellaneous insurance. So, live life to the full, knowing that Savenda General Insurance has got you covered. Savenda General Insurance. Insurance excellence.
Cabbages, onions, maize, potatoes, tomatoes, chilies. At Rainglow, we supply great quality irrigation for the mentioned crops and more at an affordable price. Get our 2,000-meter flat drip for as low as 2,900 kwacha, or our 500-meter round hose for 1,300 kwacha. Customize your own spacing with our 500-meter blank round hose going for 1,200 kwacha, ideal for orchards such as avocado, mango, banana, oranges, etc. Rainglow Irrigation, best quality, best price.
Thank you so much for staying on. We continue with the news. Patriotic Front Matero Area Member of Parliament, Mao Samba, has dragged acting party president Given Lubinda and Secretary General Nixon Chilangwa over their decision to suspend him from the party for 6 weeks. According to a statement of claim filed before the court, Mr. Samba charges that the decision by the defendants is invalid as they have been holding offices illegally. He has submitted that Mr. Lubinda and Chilangwa breached the party's constitution by accepting to act as acting party president and secretary general contrary to the provision. We have more in this report.
Following his 6-week suspension from his party, the opposition Patriotic Front, Mao Samba, the Matero Area Member of Parliament, has dragged the party's acting Secretary General, Nixon Chilangwa, and party president Given Lubinda to the Lusaka High Court over their decision. On the 30th of January 2023, PF acting president Given Lubinda announced during a media briefing the suspension of Mr. Samba, which is said to have come as a result of a media briefing that he had held, and the party was of the view that the same was in bad taste. Mr. Samba, who is also PF presidential aspiring candidate, says the words used during the said media briefing by the defendants meant that he is disorderly, confused, and that is promoting and advocating for confusion and anarchy in the party. He feels the action by Mr. Lubinda and Chilangwa has greatly affected his rights and privileges, further charging that the decision by the defendant is invalid as they have been holding office illegally. According to his statement of claim filed before court, the lawmaker states that after former President Edgar Lungu's resignation from the party and active politics, former PF Secretary General Davis Miller was supposed to take over the role of acting president, as stated in Article 53 of the party constitution. Mr. Samba states that to his surprise, the former head of state, after his resignation, purportedly exercising powers under Article 61 of the party constitution, on September 6, 2021, he appointed Mr. Lubinda and Chilangwa to their position of acting president and secretary general respectively, contrary to the provisions of the party constitution. adding that at the time of Dr. Lungu's resignation, Mr. Mwila was still occupying the office of party SG and he was to take over the role of acting president. He has submitted before court that Mr. Luwinda Nchilangwa breached the party's constitution by accepting to act in those positions, which is contrary to the provision of their party's constitution. Mr. Sampa now wants an order of injunction restraining the two from holding themselves out as acting Secretary General and party president until determination of the matter and further order of the court. Further, an order that since the party has no Secretary General nor president, it should proceed with immediately effect to hold a general conference to elect leaders to fill up the vacant position under the joint leadership of the Central Committee. Miriam Kaimba, reporting for Camnet TV News.
Constitutional Court Deputy President Professor Margaret Mnalula has recused herself from presiding over the case in which former Konkola Copper Mines Milingo Lungu has petitioned government claiming that he was granted immunity from persecution. Judge Mnalula delivered her ruling Thursday morning after hearing submissions from both parties over a question she had raised if parties were comfortable with her being party to the proceedings. Details in this report.
Thursday morning, the Constitutional Court Deputy President Professor Margaret Mnalula recused herself from a panel of judges presiding over the case that former Konkola Copper Mines provisional liquidator Milingo Lungu has petitioned government before the Constitutional Court challenging the revocation of his immunity from prosecution. Her decision to recuse herself from the proceedings came after hearing submissions from both parties over a question that she had raised if parties were comfortable with her being part of the proceedings, and the petitioner's lawyers affirmed that she recused herself from the proceedings. Earlier, the state had submitted that a dissenting ruling that her lordship had made on an application before court calling for an urgent hearing of Mr. Milingo Lungu's case is not a justification that she has exhibited partiality, adding that a recusal triggered by a dissenting ruling will result in a dangerous quest. In response, Mr. Milingo Lungu's lawyers submitted that justice is a matter of persuasion and largely depends on the conviction of a judge. For a question before them to have been asked, there is a serious conviction as regards to that person, and that where a judge exhibits partiality in the case, he or she must recuse themselves. During the previous court session, the state had submitted that the petition is now an academic exercise as the immunity agreement is no longer in existence. Subsequently, the Constitutional Court had set the 9th of February for hearing of the application by the state. The decision was made by the majority ruling. However, Constitutional Court Deputy President Margaret Mnalula dissented as she desired that the main case be heard immediately. Her lordship had noted that the contempt proceedings against the removal of Mr. Lungu's immunity has unnecessarily delayed, contending that the Constitutional Court must not go against the bar of dispensing case quickly. In this case, Mr. Milingo Lungu claimed to have negotiated for his freedom with President Hakainde Hichilema's principal private secretary, legal advisor, the Attorney General, Solicitor General, the Administrator General, and the former Director of Public Prosecution. He claims his rearrest in April 2022 on corruption allegations had no legal effect owing to the discontinuance of his criminal proceedings by the latter. The petitioner claims he was granted immunity by the former Director of Public Prosecution from being prosecuted. However, government on the other side argues that following the decision by the current Director of Public Prosecution, Gilbert Peary, to revoke the purported immunity agreement on the 22nd of December 2022, which is the subject of this petition and cross-petition, the determination of the issue raised in this matter will amount to an academic exercise, hence the need for the court to throw out his petition. Miriam Kaimba, reporting for Camnet TV News.
A LUSAKA businessman Francis Muchemwa, commonly known as Commander 2, and 2 others have taken fresh pleas and denied 10 charges of money laundering related charges. Mr. Muchima, who is jointly charged with two companies, Fridge Network Zambia Limited and Altitudes Properties Limited, appeared before Lusaka Chief Resident Magistrate Davis Chibweli Thursday. The trio is facing 10 counts of possession of property suspected to be proceeds of crime and failure to comply with the provisions of the Income Tax Act. Among the charges, it is alleged that Muchemwa, between January 1st, 2020 and August 1st, 2021, in Lusaka, dishonestly obtained a pecuniary advantage in the sum of 141,400 kwacha, form of subsistence allowances from Zesco Limited, on the pretext that he undertook official trips when in fact not. The matter has been adjourned to 20th of March 2023 for commencement of trial. The National Association for Smallholder Farmers, NASFA, says that governments desire to use the land allocated as farming blocks to help smallholder farmers migrate to commercial status in a progressive move. NASFA Executive Director Frank Kayula has told Camnet TV News that the move will provide a market and a source of input for smallholder farmers if regulated correctly. Recently, the government announced that it is preparing 100,000 hectares of land as farming blocks in order to help small-scale farmers. Dr. Kayula has urged government to ensure that the environment around the farming blocks is conducive.
The government desires to use the land that has been allocated to farm blocks for smallholder farmers to work with the large-scale farmers or lead firms. It's a very good idea, but we must take it with caution, because we have been through that path before, and there are still some projects that government has tried to do where they want the farm blocks and the dams that they have constructed to be managed by some lead firm, and then farmers, smallholder farmers around that dam can be linked to these large-scale farmers. That will provide market quite all right, and that will provide source of input for the smallholder farmers. But there must be a very good regulation, law, contract, standing so that smallholder farmers remain part of the system to make money, and so that smallholder farmers are not suppressed in the manner they are doing business with the lead firm. We would like smallholder farmers to have market.
Health Minister Sylvia Masivo has urged citizens to practice good hygiene as cholera spreads to more parts of the country. In the last 24 hours, the country has recorded 16 new cases, 8 in Vubu district, while 4 in Chipata district, and the other 4 in Mwansawombwe.
Keep food covered. If the food has stayed and is cold, warm it before eating. For me, I say avoid the salads in public places now. It's not the time for salads this time, because most time they're not properly cleaned or not cleaned enough. Maintaining a clean environment and high personal hygiene. Zambia in the last 24 hours recorded a total of 16 new cases. 8 new cases in Bugwi, 4 new cases in Chipata, and 4 in Mwansawombwe. 11 people, that is 9 in Vubwi and 2 in Mwansawombwe, have been discharged, leaving 19 in admission. Those in admission, including 2 in Mwansawombwe, 5 in Vubwi, and 12 in Chipata, are all in stable condition. We did not record any new deaths other than the 2 that we talked about yesterday. We have so far managed to administer 23,459 doses of oral cholera vaccine in Bubi district. We encourage everyone, including those vaccinated before, to continue to adhere to the preventive measures.
Government says it remains consistent and committed to eradicating poverty and enhancing social protection, child welfare and youth development. Speaking at the media training workshop in public finance management organized by Zambia Institute for Policy Analysis and Research, ZIPA and UNICEF on Thursday in Chilanga. The Minister of Information and Media, Chushika Sanda, who was represented by the Human Resource and Administration Director Media, Gretson Chupalo, says white-collar crime in public finance management are ever changing, while the media's ability to understand and track such illegalities has remained static. Mr. Chupalo states that the media in its watchdog role needs to step up its efforts in following and reporting these issues to ensure that there is adherence to the guidelines in public finance management. And Zambia Institute for Policy Analysis and Research, ZIPA Executive Director Dr. Herrick Mpuku states that the main objective for the workshop is to enhance economic and policy literacy among the media fraternity with a focus on public finance management.
Collar crimes in the public finance management are ever changing, while the media's ability, unfortunately, it is not improving, hence this gathering today. Further, many journalists tend to be more inclined to political and other sensational stories at the expense and exclusion of more urgent and important financial and economic issues.
Therefore, our engagement today with the fourth estate will play a critical role in ensuring that the public finances are well managed and that policy formulation has intention and full engagement with the public. We are therefore very delighted to engage in this program. We are confident that in the medium to the long term, this will yield significant social, economic, and political dividends.
Distinguished guests, the objective of this workshop are therefore to equip media houses with PFM skills and to strengthen their ability to effectively and sustainably communicate and inform the general public on PFM issues. The human and cooperative partners remain committed to supporting the government in strengthening the PFM system to ensure that services reach even the most vulnerable effectively, efficiently, and consistently.
Just now, we take our last set of commercials. When we get back, we have the rest of the stories.
What do you know about Zambia? Musivapo chani pari Zambia. Maishivapo shi pachalo chenu. Let your knowledge about Zambia earn you up to 5,000 kwacha cash daily on the Smart Quiz. For you to be part of this empowering show, all you have to do is subscribe daily with 10 kwacha only. Dial star 265 star 13990 star 10 hash on any network. Questions will be posted every morning on the Vim TV and General Consult Facebook page and Camnet TV Facebook page. Follow our Facebook pages so that you do not miss out. On the 14th of February 2023 at 18:30 on Camnet TV, channel 274 on DSTV, 98 on GoTV, and channel 106 on Topstar. Be entertained, educated, and empowered on the Smart Quiz. Be smart.
Welcome back, and now the rest of the news. In our international news, South Africa is facing a major electricity crisis, sometimes with no power for almost 6 hours a day. It is also affecting small business owners struggling to survive and forced to make hard choices. The outages, which have lasted for more than 200 days since last year, have poured misery on the 60 million South Africans struggling with high unemployment, poverty, and rising cost of living. Meanwhile, the three main armed movements that make up the coordination of Azawad movements merged on Wednesday in Kidal, a northeastern Malian town. They have controlled militarily since 2013. For these and other stories, here is a roundup of international news.
The three main armed movements that make up the coordination of Azawad movement marched on Wednesday in Kidal, a northeastern Malian town they have controlled militarily since 2013. The group includes National Movement for the Liberation of Azawad, the Arab Movement of Azawad, and the High Council for the Unity of Azawad. In concrete terms, the new leadership of the ex-rebels in the north are expecting to put more pressure to the Malian government. A few months ago, The members of the new alliance suspended their participation in the decision-making bodies of the Algiers peace agreement, accusing the Malian state of backing out of the agreement. The coordination of Azawad movements, a predominantly Tuareg alliance that fought the state for years before signing the peace deal in Algiers in 2015, blamed the ruling military junta for foot dragging. The new movement is already planning, with other armed groups involved in the peace deal process, to launch a vast operation to secure the populations of northern Mali. South Africa is facing a major electricity crisis, sometimes with no power for almost 6 hours a day. It is also affecting small business owners struggling to survive and forced to make hard choices. They've had to persevere dark nights in non-operational fridges for several months now.
We can run the store, which is fine, which is good, but you can't run the whole store, and it's affecting sales in a way because customers tend to buy less because they're worried about their fridges at home and the stuff. With all the fresh stuff, so it doesn't last as long.
Businesses are still counting on losses as most perishable goods do go at a waste. They've had to throw them away, leading to massive losses.
Shedding is affecting us too much because our stock is going rotten, our vegetables is going rotten. We have to throw almost every day the rotten stuff.
The outages, which have lasted more than 200 days since last year, have piled misery on the 60 million South Africans struggling with high unemployment, poverty and rising cost of living.
How do I pay my workers? How do I pay my rent on? How do I go forward buying stock? Very difficult. It put me through a stressful time, when I'm being honest, no lies about it. Very stressful. I ended up having a heart attack due to the stress.
The crisis is breaking growth just as South Africa, the continent's most industrialized economy, is hoping to recover after the COVID pandemic. Growth is expected to be an anemic 0.3% in 2023, down from 2.5% last year.
South Africa's economic hub, Gauteng, is bearing the brunt of water shortages caused by dwindling reservoir levels due to high demand of water. As taps are running dry, a water activist believes the cause for the crisis are factors like aging infrastructure and inequality.
At a local government level, at a municipal level, where you've got infrastructure damage, you've got deterioration, and that is also leading to people not having access to sufficient water. There's also the element of an unequal distribution of water in South Africa. You know, less than 40% of people have taps in their homes.
To solve the issue of water shortages, innovator Boitumelo Nkatlu developed a plant that purifies acidic water from mines, and this purified water can be used for drinking and irrigation.
We all know that water is life and water is a scarce resource. So our take into this is we do have water underground, millions and millions of liters that we are in a position to treat it at an affordable price, because we simply using a waste material to treat this to drinking stage.
Another entrepreneur and inventor, Sizwe Mavuso, came up with a water tank reuse model that could see water being preserved by communities, especially in instances where taps run dry easily.
The innovation was conceptualized around construction sites that I used to work at, where people don't have any water whatsoever, and it boiled down to affordability. The great thing about this solution is that we want to harvest water that we already have, and that's grey water.
According to Greenpeace, water is a very unevenly distributed resource, meaning that millions of South Africans already drink water that was captured in reservoirs in excess of 400 kilometers away. This water insecurity risk is worsened by increasing climate change. Wandi Swanteng, Johannesburg, South Africa, Africa News.
And that is the end of our international news. Time now for sports. The Zambia Under-20 national team has left Dakar for Egypt to set up camp in Ismailia, where they will play 2 more friendly matches before heading to Alexandria for the AFCON. FAS had organized 2 high-level preparatory matches for the team against Nigeria and Senegal as part of preparations for the tournament that kicks off on February 19th. Zambia is in Group C alongside Tunisia, Benin and Gambia. Coach Chisimbewe has carried 23 players, with 2 foreign-based players, namely Richard Ngoma, Israel, and Peter Chikola from Spain, expected to join the camp in Egypt. Still in sports news, Tug of War Association of Zambia President Amos Musonda says that teams have prepared adequately ahead of the 2023 National Championship Tournament to be held on 20th May under the theme Unlocking Our Economy Through Physical Fitness. In an exclusive interview with Camnet News, Mr. Musonda explains that tug of war is one of the many sports in the country aimed at promoting unity and wellness by bringing people together. He adds that the association has started engaging many sponsors with regards to resource gathering and hopes for a positive response. He has also urged the Zambian people to take a keen interest in sports as well as be part of the tournament to show support.
We have the Africa Championship in May, starting from 2nd to 4th of May. We also have the National Championship. This is the 2nd edition. We started last year the National Championship, which is bringing together the government ministries and the corporate world companies. So we are also have the categories concerning that tournament in the spirit of bringing people together. This tournament is an important one, which is the theme is unlocking our economy through women physical fitness. So we are encouraging all the women to be part of this national event, as we are aware that this sport is very exciting and interesting. So people, we believe that you will come and enjoy it when that time comes. So the country is more encouraged to be part of this event so that we promote wellness among our citizens.
And on that sporting item, we wrap up the main news on Camnet TV. Just now, a recap of the headlines once again. Former President Edgar Chagwa Lungu mocks President Hakainde Hichilema over high commodity prices. Flash floods traumatized Lusaka residents. Zambia ends load shedding, and in our international, small businesses count on massive losses from South Africa's power cuts. And finally, in sports, Zambia Under-20 national team is in Egypt ahead of the Africa Cup of Nations. We now look at the Camnet verse of the day coming from Mark 12, verse 30 to 31. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind and with all your strength. The second is this: love your neighbor as you love yourself. There is no commandment greater than these. Thank you so much for watching. On behalf of the entire production and news crew, my name is Louisiana Lupumbo. It's bye for now. God bless. Good night.